Tenants.
Shut
up. I just want to hear her say it.
Here's just a real quick tip. If you had a house in a low-income area that you're just not comfortable about the lockbox, pay the next door neighbor $100 to show the house for you. Don't drive out there.
If you're not comfortable about the lockbox, put a lockbox on it and get over it, would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
Instead of expecting the neighbor to be my salesperson. I wouldn't trust him to show the house. But it's a great idea to get your neighbors as your allies. They'll probably sell it for you. At the very least, how do you make them feel when you hand them a key to your house? I don't know you, but here's the key to my house. If you find somebody that's interested in it, let me know. Somebody comes up and asks, hey, go ahead and show them. If you buy it, if they buy it, I'll give you $500. And if not, at the very least, you got a key in case some emergency comes up. I just thought you'd like to have it. And here's my card. They're on your team. All the way around. That's a great idea. Okay. Next is websites. I can't imagine you guys not having a website for this. And I'll tell you, there's two ways to get it. Fill out the form that we talked about on the first day and send it in to INET. Or join FFN, that's Financial Freedom Network, before you leave here today, and you're going to get one free. One of the benefits that come with it is a website to buy and a website to sell. Already built for you. All you got to do is plug in your phone number and any particular personal information you want it, and if you want your mugshot. All the stuff is already done for you to capture the leads from the buyers, including that list of questions on page 195, which is now 195, because I swapped mine. What does your book show? What do you show on page 15? All right, well, the point is the information capturing sheet you have the one for buyers to fill out? That's all I care. Is it? Because mine were reversed. In other words, does it say what price range are you looking for? What kind of down payment can you afford? What kind of payments can you afford? Yeah. All that stuff. Okay, it's the right one then. Good. How's your credit? Do you understand that you don't really need to know any more than that? In fact, you don't even need to know half that stuff. Remember, when your prospect comes in and fills that out and emails it to you, you instantly know if they're a prospect. There's only two things on there I care about. What are they? How much of money you got, and is your credit good, fair, or ugly? And by the way, I'd have them change that. How is your credit? That's a bad question. It should be, is your credit good, fair, or ugly? And let them pick one. People with poor credit won't say their credit sucks. But if you give them a multiple choice, they will say ugly if it's ugly. That site is already built. Now, you just slide the houses for sale into your site, or they'll even do it for you, and you put the copy in there. Now your potential prospects come to your site. They see what you have for sale. They go fill out the form, and or they go to the property and then come back and fill out the form, and it's all autopilot. Can't tell you how many students I got that sell most of their houses right on their website. Yes?
Ron, I'd like to go back just one step to the autopilot having people just give them the lockbox code. I'm trying not to be a thinker brain here.
We haven't got that far yet. You're ahead of us. We haven't got to the lockbox code, lockbox on houses, or any of that. Right now, we're still attracting prospects, so hold that question until we do.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to say it again. You guys have been handed out a form on Financial Freedom Network, have you not? Okay. If you're going to join that, you'll know by the end of the day, do not. Well, if you join this, it's going to be financed at $199 a month. If you just get the website, you're looking at $39.95 a month for buying and selling. That, if you'll notice up in the front on the first day. But this, it comes free with this. So that's a $40 a month benefit you get, and it's already loaded. So you don't have to go home. I know if you have to go home and create a website, when will it get done? Never. If you have to go home and hire a website created, when will it get done? Never. It's already done. It's done. If you fill out that website form and hand it in to us today, you'll have a website by Monday. That is, if we get it turned in by Monday. You'll have a website next week. Let's put it that way. What page is that form on now? There it is. 199. Now, incidentally, everybody turn to that form, and let me make a note while I'm thinking about it. Turn to page 199, the INET USA website page. Look down there where it says free trial website hosting agreement. You see it? It calls for you to pay $39.95 if you want to keep the website after your free trial. If you join Financial Freedom Network today and turn in this application, I want you to pull this out of there and fill it out and turn it in with it. And I want you to cross out that paragraph because you're not going to pay $39.95 now or ever. But I don't have a separate form for this. Does everybody understand what I just said? If you join FFN, you cross that out. If you don't, you can fill this in and turn it in anyway, but you will have to pay the $40 after your free trial period. And if you don't know your URL, or if you don't have a clue what you want it to be called, don't worry about it. Turn it in anyway. But understand, your website cannot get up and running until you know what the URL is going to be. You guys know what a URL is? Okay. That's the address for your website. You've got to pick one. And of course, if you pick one, it might be taken. And you won't know that till you turn this in. If you turn this in, however, gosh, there is a place on here for it, isn't there? Oh, good. There's no place on here for it. Good. They finally got smart and realized there's no sense of you putting one down because it's probably already taken. They will be contacting you, and you will get your URL based on availability. And incidentally, you should be picking 4 or 5 different ones in case it's not available. Yes?
Is the buy and sell 2 separate sites?
It is 2 separate sites, but here's what it is. The buy site, when your seller of a home comes to that site, they will not be able to go to the sell site. Because we have discovered, over years of doing this, they don't want to, and there's no sense of trying to get them to. Most of your websites you see will have a place to buy, to sell, and all kinds of crap the customer can pick from. You don't want them picking from it. And the same on your buying side. Well, it'll be your selling side, their buying side. If they're coming in to buy a house, all you need to let them do is, here's what's available. If you're interested, go fill out this form and submit it, or go see the house. That's all you want on those sites. So that's 2 different sites, but they are literally one site that he's divided with 2 different addresses. Make sense? Okay. Plus, with this, you're going to get an intranet site. So you're literally getting 3 different websites just with this package alone. The intranet is for your eyes only. It's got all that fancy stuff on there, amortization schedules. In fact, there's an amortization schedule on this intranet site that will allow you to pay principal payments on any loan you want, at any time you want, in any amount you want, and vary them and instantly tell how much interest you saved and how many years you shaved off of your loan just by paying in extra principal. I had him create that site. It's a killer amortization site because you guys probably want to be thinking about doing that, especially on your home. You pay in a little bit of extra money toward principal, and it has a huge effect on interest savings, whether you know it or not. I'll give you an example. If you pay 1 extra payment per year and have it applied toward principal, it'll knock a 30-year loan down to 19 years. Just 1 extra payment a year.
Are you a different site for each property?
No. Oh, no, of course not. No, look, turn back to your page 14 in the back. On your website, we'll have the properties you have for sale. Customer gets to click on one they're interested in. You just load photos on there, and if you want, and the particular information. Your website will be set up. Look, we've been doing this for a long time. We know how to set your website up. We know what goes on it, and we know what you shouldn't have on it. Now, what should you load on your website as soon as you get them? Testimonials. Testimonials. Nobody can supply those for you. You need to load them on there as soon as you can get. In fact, if you look at page 196, Gosh, you see all the built-in features right there that you get with this thing. Cool sites, cool stuff.
Ron?
Yeah.
You mentioned that there was a seller side and a buyer side. Is that within, and there are two sites, is that within the $39? Or is each one $39?
I don't know. Well, it's one website, so it's probably $39.95 for both of them. I don't know, to be honest with you. I can't answer that. I do know that both of them come with FFN. That I know, because this I'm a part of. Providing this website without being part of this, I don't know that much about. Besides, it is a free trial. And you're not going to pay for it if you don't like it. All right. Have we done enough to locate prospects already? Huh? So how many of you are going to use signs? Okay. How about the rest of you? How many of you are going to use ads? How many of you think you're going to do direct mail? How many are going to put out flyers? Okay. I would not do direct mail unless the signs didn't work. I would not even call Richard Roop to send postcards unless the signs didn't work. I would not run ads unless the signs didn't work. We clear? If you guys aren't careful, especially when you get 6, 8 houses out there, like look at us, we got 16, 18, 20 houses at one time. There ain't no way I'm going to mount an advertising campaign to sell each and every one of these houses and go out there and spend $1,000, $2,000 on advertising to sell each and every one of these houses. My advertising bill would be through the roof. And I want you to be very careful that you watch that. Run ads, try to get them generic. Put out signs, you'll get calls. And we're going to get to the system here in a minute to handle those calls. Before we do, we ought to go into constructing offers so we can figure out what to do with them. I told you earlier, your flexibility will determine how fast you sell houses. If you'll look at page 19, you'll see the exit strategies that I've listed that are possible for you to do. Number one is what everybody wants to do or think they want to do. Sell it for cash to qualified buyer. Sell it to that perfectly qualified buyer. Do you know that 64% of the people who want to buy houses can't qualify for a loan to get you cashed out at 100%? 36% of the people trying to buy houses can. That means that all the builders and all the realtors are looking for that 36%. I've made an awful lot of money dealing with that 64%. And I find them a lot easier to deal with. And I've also discovered that while looking for the 64, I wind up getting 36%ers whether I want them or not. And of course, I want them. My advertising campaign brings them in by using advertising that is not normal, that's a little on the weird side. Even if they can qualify, the things we do brings them in anyway. So I'm going to suggest to you that you open your horizons up to what's available to you out there. Number two is where you get them as high a loan-to-value ratio loan as you can and take back a second. And you do that, don't you, Chris?
I do, all the time.
What percentage of your business would be people that you have to take back a second for?
Of the ones that cash out or in general?
No. You sell houses, you get them a loan for 75, 80, 85, 90% of the value. You take back a second mortgage. Is that a lot of your business or a smaller amount of your business?
Of the ones that cash out, it's about 75% that I'll take a 5% second back or so. And about 25% I can get financed 100%. And the rest I will lease option.
Oh, let's say that again. Of all the properties that you sell to buyers who get new loans, 75% of them require you taking back a small second.
They do.
25% of them cash out 100%.
And that's directly related to who I'm marketing to, who my buyer is. Remember, we're not attracting the 34, 36% A and B buyers. We're marketing to the other group. But if we have to take a 5% second back, aren't we raising the price 5% anyway? So are we taking anything back? Not really. But we still get that money later, don't we? And that's why I like to do that whenever possible, because you don't throw that money away.
Why are we marketing to this? What's the difference between our marketing and the marketing that realtors do? How are we marketing to the 64%? By simply running ads that say things like no qualifying buying, no banks needed, owner financing. The realtors rarely run those ads because they don't have that luxury, unless, of course, the seller's given it to them. So we're attracting the people that you would assume are looking for help. But fortunately, a lot of them don't need help. And some of them that think they need help really don't need help. Somebody told them they had bad credit because they had a collection on their credit. Believe me, that's not bad credit.
I have two good overheads for what Ron just said. My numbers are off just a tad from his. But here's your market. The realtors and builders and the 30%, and your market is folks that need help. Their whole dream and their whole life is to own their own home, and you're going to be the one that's going to help them.
American dream, home ownership.
That's your market, and what Ron just talked to you about, what's your message? No banks needed. Owner will finance. And that's how you drive your traffic, and that's why you're going to have to take some small seconds back. Exactly who you're marketing to. So you are intentionally doing that because you are in control of the process, not the other way around.
Well said. All right, let's take an example. Who's got a house for sale right now? What's the R? Back here. 85. Perfect, because that's a perfect price range you're going to have to do this in, too. 85. Whoop, better get something right on here. $85,000 R. Now, where did you get that R from? Comps. Okay. All righty. Is 85,000 the highest comp you found? It's a little above. What's the highest comp you found? 79 or 80. So you've raised the price arbitrarily to 85. You got a lot of nerve. So why'd you pick 85? Because you're offering owner financing? Well, why 85? Why that number? PFA, right? Pluck from air. Okay? It's your house. You can pluck from air anytime you want. But just for the record, why don't you just make it 89.9? Just as easy. Isn't it? Isn't it? It's no harder to write. And I'm telling you right now, if you can get 85, you can get 89.9, especially if you're owner financing it. Now, if you get 89.9, did you just pay for this boot camp? Yes? You'll get it. You'll get it. Did Robin tell you that all of her $80,000 houses she sells for $89.9 cash? She does. So obviously, if you're going to put owner financing in there, it's a no-brainer. They either pay the $89.9 or they can hit the road. It's that simple.
How many of you think they're even going to bring it up and ask about the price? Honestly. A few, right? You think they are? They're not going to buy your house. The ones that ask about price aren't going to buy anyway, so don't worry about it.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. In this price range. Not true in the $300,000 price range.
Correct.
You're going to have a lot more price resistance as you get up there with the sophisticated people that make money, that have college educations, and that's a different level of buyer. But that's okay. You still control the market. You still control the product. You still get to choose who you sell to. You still get to make the rules. And those who don't want to live by the rules, whack them. Especially when you got houses that look like that one that I showed you a while ago. Believe me, you don't have to take anybody's crap when you got a product like that to offer to the market. All right. So how are you going to sell it? You say you're going to sell it with owner financing. Are you? Where do you live? Michigan. Is that a good state to sell with owner financing? I know you can only charge 11%, but that's enough, I guess. All right. What if he did this? What if he advertises for owner financing and he gets a bunch of buyers coming in and he finds somebody that can qualify for they're weak, 85% loan. And the sales price is $89,900. Somebody multiply 85 times $89,900 for me. Whoever's got a calculator. They're going to get them an 85% first mortgage at a C and D lender. That means weak and poor credit. 76 what? 76.4. Okay, that's 85% of the sales price. As long as it appraises for $89,900. How many of you think it'll appraise for $89,900 if we have a buyer who's agreed to pay $89,900? 9 out of 10 times it'll appraise for $89,900. You're not going to believe that till you go do it.
And when it doesn't appraise, ask for another one, and it will appraise.
Correct. The 1 out of the 10 that don't, go get a new appraiser. Whack 'em. Now, this buyer's not going to have a lot of money. And in fact, they may not have any money. You may have to pay all the closing costs and get a loan where the lender will allow you to take back a second mortgage for the difference. Let's say this buyer is broke, but they got enough credit to get that loan. What's the difference? 76.4, 86. How much? 13.5. So I have to take back a 13.5 second mortgage to you. Now you can construct that second mortgage any way you choose. What you don't want to do is to create a second mortgage payment coming into you that puts them in such a high debt ratio they can't qualify for the first. What are you in for this, guys? Are you in this for the 76.4 or the 13.5? If you never collected the 13.5, would life be okay? Yes? You want to collect it, but if you never collected it, would you still make money? Well, you better had, because you better have bought this house and be into it for a lot less than 76.4. A lot less. So you structure the second. Here's how I do it. I look at the buyer and I say, how do you want to pay this second mortgage off? And pretty much whatever they say is acceptable, except never. I don't care how they structure that second mortgage. Because the last thing I want to do is worry about collecting a little piddly payment every month anyway. So I'll say, okay, well, we can do this if you want. If you wish, I'll just put it on there and have it balloon in 5 years, accruing 10 or 12% interest. How's that? That way you don't even have to make a payment on it. They love that. They love that. Now 5 years go by, hopefully the property values goes up, hopefully their credit gets better, they go out and refinance. And of course the mortgage broker who put them in is going to try to take them out with a better loan a year from now. Because he gets another commission check.
Have you ever had a lender balk at you doing a zero payment second because they think it's bogus and not really happening?
They think it's bogus. What?
When you put no payments on the second mortgage, have you ever had a lender come back and say,
no,
I don't believe that mortgage is really there?
No, because I put 5-year balloons in them. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to see. No, I haven't had them balk.
I've had one.
Well, then say, what do you want it to be?
Right, and that's what we did.
And that's how you close it. Now, the whole point of this is this. I wouldn't have sold this house if I was so hell-bent on getting my $89,900, I had to let this buyer go by. Now, I don't have to take this buyer. I don't have to take back that $13,500. But I did get $76,400. What's the house worth? It was only worth $80,000. So I'm pretty darn close to what I originally started out getting. However, am I going to get $76,400 in cash? I promise you, you're going to lose a minimum of 5% of the loan for closing costs. So whatever's left. If I get $72,000 cash at closing, that's better than sitting on this house for months waiting for that perfectly qualified buyer. And there are other advantages. If this thing does go into foreclosure, they got to notify me. In fact, I got a letter on my desk right now from Option 1. Option 1 did this exact same thing on a house I sold last year in a semi-war zone. I took back a second. Option 1 wrote me a letter and said, we're about to foreclose. Do you want to work with us? When I get back, I'm going to call them and I'm going to say yes. As long as you will take a big discount. If you will, I'll come in and pay you off. In other words, it's the deal after the deal. You see, when you're a second mortgage holder, forget all this short sale crap. You have every right to deal with them on that first. When they know you own the second, they'll give you any information you want, and you're so much easier to work with you. And I'm going to discount the snot out of them. I mean, they're going to take a huge discount. This is a brick house that we renovated. We sold it for full retail price. The seller made the buyer made not one payment to me on that second. Not one. And this is a year and a half ago. Now option one's going to get around to foreclose. I'm going to relieve them of that problem. All they got to do is take a big discount. So I'm going to go get another house back. I've had houses that I've owned 5 times. So far, 5 is the record.
How much?
What, on this house?
Yeah.
Don't know till we go out and see what kind of shape it's in. But I say I don't know till we go out and see what kind of shape it's in. And I'll make them a ridiculous offer. And they'll probably take it.
Like what?
I think I sold the house for 80. And I think I took back a second for about 12 or 14. Which means they're probably into it for what? 60 something? I'll probably wind up offering them maybe 30. If it's in pretty decent shape. And they'll take it. And if they don't, I don't care. I'll let them foreclose on it and go buy it then. In fact, if they foreclose on it, I probably won't even mess with it. I got better deals, I'll tell you. See, we got a lot better deals out there, as you can see by the ones that John and Don are on top of right now. But what am I going to do? Just turn my back on it? I mean, it's a deal that falls into your lap. You guys are going to learn when you're in business after the first year. These deals just start coming to you without you having to do any work. And I can tell you that a lot of people right now have totally shut off their buying machine because they can't handle the leads that just come in by osmosis. Are you beginning to see that?
I am.
Getting a lot of deals that you didn't even know were coming, you didn't do anything to get, except last year and the year before's work. And incidentally, when you lease option a house to somebody and they default and they move, haven't you just bought another house? Indirectly? Huh? You're right back to square one, except they left several $1,000s of their deposit behind. You got another house to go get a big old down payment on. It's the same as going out and getting another deed, isn't it? Or maybe you thought lease option tenants defaulting on houses was a bad thing. I got some bad news for you. Only about 35-40% of them are ever going to buy the house. Is that bad news? That's good news. That's good news. They're going to force you to get so filthy, stinking rich your relatives are going to hate you. Yes?
Yeah, just want to make sure I got this right.
Probably not.
Well, I'll give you that. The first mortgage is something that the buyer takes out from a lender, not
correct,
not like a bank or something.
A secondary lender usually. Finance companies.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Lenders that are in business to loan at higher rates, lower loan to value because they're not excellent credit.
Good. And the second mortgage is something that you take out,
I don't
or they
take
take
it out
from you.
I take it back.
Okay. Could you please explain that? Does it mean
Yes.
Does it mean you're?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Here's a good slide for you.
They have to apply for a loan to get the first mortgage. They have to do all that stuff, prove their income, yada yada yada. For my second mortgage, they're already, if they can get the first loan approved, they're already approved for me. All it is this. They go to a closing table. At that table, there is a mortgage and note created by the closing agent for that $13,500 at whatever terms we agree. They sign that right after they sign all that first mortgage stuff. I get that original note. I go home with that note. They owe me now $13,500. I have become the bank.
So you just make that stuff up, basically. You just make that up. I mean, that's just free money, right?
I don't make. Oh, it is free money.
Okay, so as far as the
You
bank's
got
concerned,
that part.
as far as
It
the
is.
bank's concerned, this guy's buying a house for 76.
No. That would be bank fraud. The bank knows he's buying it for $89,900, but on his purchase and sale agreement, it shows they're getting an 85% loan and the seller's taking back a 15%.
And that doesn't affect their decision to approve him for the 76.
The point is, from the bank,
Yeah.
They're only into it for 85% loan to value. That's all they care about. That's all some of them care about. Some of them want to see a down payment from the borrower.
Okay, so you definitely do not hide from the bank that you're taking back a second
No
mortgage.
way. No way. You don't do that.
Okay.
Besides, you need the sales price at $89,900 so that 85% of that equals the $76,000.
Ah, got it. Okay.
If you lower the price to $76,000, they'll own 85% of that, and lowers your cash. Now, I hope you also got that I made the price $89,900. The house is only worth $80,000, so I'm not taking back much of a second in reality. Did you guys get all of that?
Can I show them?
And you're right. I just pulled money out of air.
Can I show
We
them a
get
real
to
quick
do that.
overhead? This might help you real quick. Depending on someone's credit score, okay, that's your left-hand side, they're able to borrow a certain percentage of the purchase price. There's other factors involved your broker will deal with. But depending on their credit score, they can borrow so much. So in this case, let's say someone had a 583 or a 600 credit score, and the bank is willing to lend them 90% of the purchase price. What Ron's telling you is, wasn't his exact thing, but if they put 5% down and their credit allows them to get a 90% loan, Ron's going to wait for the other 5%. The other 5%, he increased the price anyway, didn't he? Say yes. Yes. Okay, that's free money to Ron for later that he may get or he may not get. So
I like your example. You guys understand that my example now required the borrower putting up no money. Every dollar the borrower puts up as a down payment goes right into my pocket and reduces that $13,500 loan. But if you're dealing in these $85,000 houses, they're harder to find with money. So you got to be flexible so you can get out. That's the only point we make.
Does that make sense?
And I think we beat it up. Let's move on. And then, of course, there's the lease option purchase program. And to be honest with you, that's what I like to see you do most of the time. But I also know that you're going to have to cash out. In other words, forget all this bank stuff. Forget all these loan packages. Forget all this qualifying. All they got to do is qualify to you. And there's two things that'll make them qualify. How much money they got, and can you get more? That's the two things that'll make them qualify. How much money they got is important here because it's that down payment that you're receiving from them, that non-refundable option deposit that you're receiving from them that makes you want to put them in the house or not put them in. If you're lease optioning a property to a tenant buyer, do not, under any circumstances, let them into your home unless you get a wad of cash. You break that rule, you're going to have to go to that seminar on your own. And you will. It's a guarantee. You should get a minimum of 3% of the sales price from that borrower, or do not let them in your home. And you will discover you can get more of that than that in most cases. The better quality house, the more money you can get. If you're selling an $85,000 house on a lease option, you're going to have a hard time getting $3,000 or $4,000. If you're selling a $200,000 house on a lease option, I wouldn't accept less than $10,000. Make sense? The better quality product you offer, the easier it is to find people with the money. Now, I just lease optioned out one for $185,000. We only got $5,000 down. And incidentally, do as I say, not as I do. But you know what? I suspect, based on what Donna told me, that they'll be cashed out of that house within the next 60 days. For one thing, I happen to know the family of this gal we put in there. She don't know it, but I used to be partners with her dad. And I'm not worried about her. Because I know, based on what I know about that family, I don't need to worry about her. And besides, I didn't need the money, so I didn't care whether it was $5,000 or $10,000. What I cared was I was going to put somebody in there I wasn't going to have a problem with. And incidentally, that's the exact same house we just evicted someone from last month and put them on the street. A couple of school teachers. Did everything we could to save them. Finally got to the point where, nope, it's over. They begged us to take the rent. I finally said no. Every time they paid a rent, it's late. Every time they got it, the check bounced. We tell them not to pay by check, they send it anyway. In other words, they don't follow the rules. Finally, I got to the point, I said, nope, I want them out. Don't take their money. And believe me, they begged to give it to us rather than hit the street. Finally, just had to make them hit the street. And then, to top all that off, we evict them, and they weren't smart enough to have their crap out of the house before the sheriff showed up. What does she do? She waits until the sheriff comes, then shows up and asks me if she can go in and get her stuff. Fortunately for her, I let her. I didn't have to. From the moment the sheriff arrived, it ain't her stuff anymore. It's my stuff. Didn't have to. She's lucky she got a hold of me. You know, warm, gentle, fuzzy me. But I wasn't mad at him. Felt sorry for him, actually. Not that much. Not with all the chances I gave him. It was a nice couple. They really were. They took care of the house. I didn't have any problem with them, except I had to keep constantly hounding them to get the rent. Other than that, it wasn't really bad. I just got tired of it. So now we just lease option it out again. We'll see what happens. But I would never consider putting anybody in that home unless they had at least several $1,000s. Under no circumstances would I let anybody talk me into moving into the house and paying me later. How do you think I got so smart? So if you're going to lease out a property on a lease option, do not put people in your home unless they got a good chunk of money that used to be theirs that's now going to get to be yours. And when they give you a lease option deposit, folks, it is non-refundable, clearly spelled out on the agreement. That is normal. If they buy, it goes toward their down payment. If they don't, they lose it. There is no mystery. And hopefully I'm going to get you guys using my agreements that you're going to let your attorney close with, and it clearly spells it out. They sign it in blood. They got to prick their finger before they can move into one of my houses. Sign it in blood. I'm just kidding now. Don't make a note of that. I'm just kidding. Yes.
Hey, Ron, I have a question. If I get a deed subject to and the seller finds a new home that they want to qualify for a loan on, what can I do to help them? I heard you say yesterday that you would give them a piece of paper. You can give them an agreement for deed or a land contract. Just fill out one and hand it to them. They can take it to their bank. It shows that you're making them the same amount of payment that they're making to the bank. They can take it to the bank, and the bank can see income coming in to wash out the underlying debt. Even if you already have the deed. Okay, one more question. If I buy it in a lower price neighborhood, I buy a home, I take over the payments, and I want to pay off the form. I didn't assume the payments. I took over the payments, and I want to pay that off. This home's not likely to attract somebody who can get financed. How can I make my profit and pay off the loan of the former owner?
Trying to tell you right now. That's what we're doing.
Lease options?
That's what we're doing right now. You probably are going to sell it and take back a little second and get whatever cash you can out of it and get out of the loans.
So you just have to find those C and D
They'll
brokers.
find you if you just do what Chris and I told you to do. You just have to pick the best of the flock. And I'll tell you guys, when you're doing short sales, you got no choice. If you think you're going to get the short sales and get the bank to take a discount and let them sit around here and wait for 3, 4, 5 months till you find a buyer, you're kidding yourself. When you get a bank to discount the loan, somewhere the money's got to come from. There's only two places. One, you get a private loan and fund it. Two, you get a buyer to fund it. Private loans are great if the amount you owe the bank is low enough to make sense to borrow private money to pay it off. But on the pretty houses that you're short sailing, that ain't going to be the case. The amount you got the discount for is going to be more than you can go get a private loan to cover. Because it's pretty. Still plenty of equity for you to make when you sell it. But the only way out is selling it and having cash come to closing for more than what the bank gets. And I promise you, you're going to be taking back second mortgages because you got to get the first buyer that comes in there that can get a loan big enough to cover the underlying and more. You can't get picky. You get picky, you'll lose the whole deal because you can't get the money to pay off the bank. Does anybody have any idea what I just said? Yes, sir.
I had a attorney look over the lease option agreement because this is my first deal,
Which one?
and I didn't believe which attorney or
Which lease option agreement?
the lease option for just for the seller. So I had him look it over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I had him look it over because I didn't believe any of this stuff, and I didn't know it all worked. And he looked it over and said, it's all in your favor. They're crazy if they signed. Of course, the guy signed. I haven't sold the house yet, but...
So you mean the lease option agreement that I wrote for you to take control of the properties
Yes.
is in your favor?
Yes.
What a surprise.
I believe.
Yes.
For those of you listening about Ron's forms, I use his lease and his option forms, so you ought to also?
You mean this one?
I do.
The new one. You
I
guys
do.
don't have this one.
I travel a little bit with Ron, so I've been able to get that. But I'll tell you, there's a little $11,000 check we got this week on a lease option. 90 days ago, we had a $9,000 check on it. So you get those houses back.
They moved out that fast?
90 days. The husband left the wife, and I got the house back and got another lease option. $20,000. I still own the house in 90 days, and I get all the tax benefits because I use the right paperwork.
And Chris hopes they don't ever buy that.
I hope they never buy.
Yeah. You understand that every year that goes by, the house is worth more and the loan is less, and you're just keeping on generating cash from it? You know, sooner or later, you guys got to start thinking about tomorrow and forgetting about the day and realizing that every time you cash out of a house, you're killing the goose that laid the golden egg. Yes. Got here in a quick turn king telling you not to cash out of them now. I'm so screwed up now, I don't know what to do.
Ron, they want to know how to get your forms.
I bet you before the day's over, you're going to find out. Yes.
When you're looking at their application, they have the money, they can make the monthly payment, but
Yeah.
your mortgage broker says they'll never, ever qualify for a loan. No way.
Don't
no.
put them in the house.
Don't put them in the house.
If your mortgage broker says they'll never, ever qualify for a loan, and you got a mortgage broker that deals in C&D borrowers, you're probably better off never putting them in the house unless they got a boatload of money. And some of them will have. Because, you know, they get workman's comp claims.
And Chris, how many applications would you say you look at before you put somebody in a house? Per house?
I don't know because I don't look at them, but I'm going to guesstimate, and Susan will be here tomorrow. We do less. It's just like when you get leads now to buy houses. Now that you have knowledge, it takes you less to find a strategy to purchase. You don't need a million of them.
Right.
I would say no more than 5. Because our business is structured that we're not in to cash out of every deal. And we have complete flexibility to sell to anyone with money or credit. When you first start, if you do some things wrong, like I did, and you make some mistakes, you are not going to be in control of your cash flow. Your cash flow will control you. As you get your system on autopilot, like Ron's talking about, and you get above your business and you can truly manage it, you are now in control over what paydays you're going to get, if they're predictable, not predictable, if you care if a buyer gets financed or not. Early on, the mistakes I made, when I made a mess running back and forth, trying to do everything myself, and had cash flow gaps, I had so many cash flow problems my first 90 days, even though I was making money. I threw anybody, and this goes to what Ron just said, I threw anybody in the house I could just to stop the bleeding, right? But what happened 12 months later when they made those 12 payments or 13 payments, and I wanted to go to my broker and say, they're seasoned now, here's their verification of rents, let me get that big old fat check. They were such a terrible candidate to where next year when I was hoping I was going to start getting these cash outs, I cut my own throat by putting garbage in the house. So what Ron just said, write it down. If your broker says, I can't get them approved now, and there's no way I can get them in 12 months because they have 17 pages of collections and 6 loans in default right now, to pay me now or pay me later. Don't put them in the house just to stop a little bit of bleeding. If you're not guaranteeing payments when you buy, you'll be okay. If you are guaranteeing payments, you're probably going to put them in the house and you're going to pay for it later. Did you guys get that? That was a big mistake I made early on. I couldn't get my pipeline to start cashing me out because I created my own mess.
How'd you get so smart so fast?
I'm going to show them tomorrow, everything that I know.
You're not supposed to be this smart this quick. That's one of the things we focus on in Business Management Boot Camp, the cash flow uglies.
Ron, you got to tell him. I mean, there's not one thing that Ron has taught that I haven't been to 4 or 5 times. In this last 24 months, probably the biggest mistake I see most individuals make early on is they don't invest in themselves. And you make your money here, right between your ears. And I spent money on myself. I really did. And got it back. You saw the numbers.
Yes, you did.
If I spent $10,000 in training the first year, I made $750,000. Let me see. Was that a good decision?
Okay. And last on the list is selling with owner financing. Now, that's not going to work for some of you because you live in states where it's not a good thing to do. I'm still on 19. For example, Florida. If I sell with owner financing in Florida, no matter how I do it, I got to foreclose to take it back if I can't get them to deed it back. Not true in Georgia. I can sell on a contract or agreement for deed in Georgia and have it back in 30 days. Texas, 30 days. They're kissing a curb. But in Florida, it takes a minimum of 4 months if I have to force them out. So I'm reluctant to sell with owner financing. Well, I've done quite a bit of it. But if I do it, I'm going to get me a huge down payment. Minimum 10%, and I want more. Because I know I got to do more work and have time go by and spend more money to get it back if I have to force it back. And guys, when you sell a house with owner financing, you always have to assume you're going to have to go get it. And if you don't make your decision to sell it based on that fact, I promise you that's the one that's going to come back and bite you in the butt. That's why when I make private loans with my money or other people's, I could care less about the credit. I assume that I got to go get the property back when I make the loan, so I don't make a loan that I don't want the property back. See, I've already done all that. I had 65 of them come back to me in the 2-year period here, 1999 and 2000. These seminars just keep on coming. And I am so tired of having these arrows in my back. I want you guys to go screw up. You'll be the pioneers and come back and tell me how hard it was. And then I'll teach the next class and say, hey, don't do this. Because here's what happened. To them, not to me. Lou Brown and I, God, you can imagine the stories we could create if we ever sat down and wrote a book. I'll tell you one thing, though, it'd scare everybody out of being in the real estate business. Because they focus on the bad, they wouldn't be thinking about the good. Selling with owner financing is something that you ought to say to MOS if you intend to do that. If you don't do it right, you're going to get penalized. If you do it right, it is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to have income streams coming in that you don't even have any responsibility to the property for whatsoever. You see, when they bought it with owner financing, they own it. They repair it, they fix it, they pay taxes, they pay insurance, all of that. It's their property, it's their responsibility. You just become the bank. And it's a beautiful thing to have a bunch of incoming mortgages where people owe you. And by the way, these mortgages are a real quality asset. There's all kinds of things you can do with them, including hypothecate them, which means borrow against them, if you choose to. And you can trade mortgages for face value for any asset you want. Easy to trade income streams for assets. Easy to trade income streams for anything you want in life. There's all kinds of reasons to do that. But you just better make sure you understand what it takes to get it back and a few rules. And I'm not going to get into that here because I'd rather you just see you lease option them. If you lease option them out, it's all upside. There's only one downside, and that's when they move. You still might have to go in there and clean the property up and put it back on the market. But the upsides so much outweigh those downsides. If you do it the way we're training you to do it, if you put people in there that can pay, if you put people in there to give you a big chunk of their money, you're going to discover a whole different class of tenant than that you have been programmed to work with and or may have worked with in the past. There's a huge difference between a lease option tenant and a tenant. And there's only one reason there's a difference. Because you have a wad of their money. That's a totally different mindset.
Here's a nice little tip for you. When you market and you want a lease option house, market it owner financing. If you market owner financing, you'll get a good lease option tenant. If you market lease option or rent to own, you're going to get a renter. You get better down payments that way.
That's a good idea. That's brilliant.
That's why you pay me.
I ain't paying you. That's brilliant. If you run
I only market my houses to attract buyers by owner financing, whether I want to cash out, whether I want a lease option. That's pretty much all I do. If you market for owner financing, you're going to get someone that wants to own a home that's responsible, who most likely will have some money. True?
And they're looking to buy.
And they're looking to eventually buy, which will help you cash out of your pipeline later. They probably have more money to put down. They will probably be a better tenant. If you advertise lease option or rent to own, who are you going to attract? A lease option or rent to own person. So that's One little
And
note.
okay. I want to sell my house. I'd rather cash out. Why would I run an owner financing ad? My gosh, then I got to owner finance everybody who calls me. You run an owner financing ad. They call you. What's this owner financing stuff? Oh, well, we owner finance. Oh, what does that require? Well, how much do you have to put down? I only got $3,000. Well, that's not enough. How's your credit? Oh, it's pretty good. Okay, well then, why don't we just go ahead and get you in and get you some financing, much cheaper than my owner financing anyway. How many of you would owner finance people? Anybody who calls, how many of you would owner finance if they put up a 20% down payment, for example? Say yes, Ron. Yes. In any state. Okay? However, don't count on that. It happens. But the truth is, you don't know what you got to work with till you get the phone ring. What gets the phone ring? Owner financing. To a point. You get houses above about $250,000, $300,000, and all, that just don't interest them. Yes?
Question for Chris. Do you have any issues with lease option tenant buyers that have a hard time understanding the insurable interest that they do not have?
The insurable interest?
Yeah,
You're talking about?
Like they don't have a legal insurable interest in the property, but
They don't have any equitable interest, is what you're saying.
Well, they don't want to. They say, well, I want to file a claim on the roof, and say, no, we're not going to file a claim on the roof. And they say, well, it's my house and this and that because they.
Man.
What he's talking about is.
Hey, I had to evict somebody over this.
I've never had a tenant buyer in my life that could spell insurable.
Yeah, well, he didn't understand it either.
Price range. Well, you just got a idiot. That's all. You can't file a claim on a roof on a house you don't own. That's what I'd have told him. You want to own it? Buy it. Do whatever you want. Well, in the meantime, it's my house. You tenant. Me property owner. Me boss. You don't like it, you leave. You'll get that way after a while. You'll get just as kind and gentle and fuzzy as I am.
That's why he doesn't sell houses.
Oh, no. You should see me when I'm on the phone with buyers.
I'll bet you do.
Oh, I'm just the sweetest guy you ever want to see. You have a hard time believing that, aren't you? But it's true. It's absolutely true. Yes.
Ron, when you took back that second mortgage on that property,
this one,
is that taxable income?
No, not until you receive it.
Not until you receive it. Okay, thank you.
Your sales price is reduced down to what you actually got in cash. And when you receive it, you get taxed on it. And if you never receive it, you just never get taxed on it.
Who wants to know a real slimy trick?
Oh, they like slime. Give them some slime.
It's on tape.
Slime them.
When you set up your second mortgage, amortize it over 40 years. And if your tenant or your buyer, 40 years. If your buyer says, why are you doing that? Well, trying to keep your payment low so it's protected for you. Is that okay? Sure. That thing will not amortize for hardly anything over the next 2 years. And most likely they'll get a loan that's called a 228, where they have a lower rate for 2 years, and then the next 28 years it goes up a little bit, but it's fixed, and that's where your broker sets them up to cash them out. So if you give them a second mortgage and take it back, you're hardly going to get those payments anyway, so you might as well not even have them amortized. So I do 40 years on this.
I do slimier than that. I do interest only.
Do you?
Yeah, they don't ever pay any principal.
That's good. You are slimier than I am.
That's not slimy. That's a business decision. Besides, that's how you get their payments down. The interest only, their payments are lower. And truthfully, I'll let them tell me how they want to pay it. I mean, I've had people say, well, you know what, I'm going to have you paid off in a year, whatever you want to do. I say, okay, well, let me just create it, and I'll give you a 1 year balloon, and you pay me off in a year. You know, they say they're going to pay me off in a year. I don't even put interest in it. Give them a great deal. Okay, I'll put a 1 year balloon in it. Now what happens if the year goes by and they haven't paid me? Oh, well, that's a totally different negotiation process there. You hadn't paid me off in a year, so we're either going to have to get a reinstatement fee, because you have the right to call a loan due, or I'm going to add some interest in there and make up for this year you wasted. Whatever. It's all free money anyway, guys. Okay, before we go to lunch.